So it is October 18th. I want to say like 10:30 because I've been at this for a while trying to film this. I've tried to film about 100 times and I just cannot get it right. And then my sister is out in the living room talking, being super loud, and my house is not super big. So yeah, I kind of wanted to give my testimony on my YWAM experience and pre-YWAM, like how I got accepted and all the the anxious awaiting, and how it kind of led up to me applying for YWAM. And I'm hoping to kind of like document the next 5 months and then the 6 months after that. So the next year of my life I'm hoping to document, but like hopefully after that too. I don't know, we'll see. But yeah, let's just get into it. Also, I have notes, so don't like judge me because I'm super unorganized, and if I'm like looking down I'm reading my notes, or if I'm looking away I'm just not very good at the camera yet. So I was about 12 years old when I first went to summer camp, and I made some of my best friends there. And so my one friend, her name is Gracie. Yes, I asked to put her name in here. So her name's Gracie, and we were not good friends actually. Like the first 2 years of me going, like she didn't really like me. I really liked her though, and I really looked up to her, and we're really close now. But so Gracie and I would always, like, we were always that person for each other there. Like we were very similar and complete opposites at the same time. Like we both want to go into ministry, and Gracie's more creative than I am, so I'm more like clean type and she's more like creative, if that makes any sense. I think we complement each other. But so Gracie and I always talked about, so there's this one college that would always send students to counsel and to like lead worship, and you could always tell that like the people that they had sent were always super genuine and like actually loved Jesus, and they were there for like what the Lord had for them, and they weren't there for like their own selfish reasoning, if that makes sense. So Gracie and I always really looked up to that, and we always really loved like the home, like it's a very homey college. We loved the like just the idea of it, I think. And so we just talked about like, oh, we're gonna go, whatever. And so fast forward a couple years, and I found myself kind of in a spot of uncertainty and not really knowing what my purpose was and what God had for me, and like where he was going to have me, or what I always knew that like I was supposed to be in ministry. Like I've always known that ministry is what I'm supposed to do, but I didn't know what ministry. And to be completely honest, I know, like I have an idea, but like I don't know exactly like this is what I'm going to do with my life. So 2018, I think it was 2018, whatever, I was 16. I went to Ghana, Africa on a mission trip with my mom's friend, and it was just her and I. We went on this mission trip and we spoke on purity. And so yeah, I talked about my purity and my personal testimony, and a lot has changed in the past 2 years, but that's what we did while I was there. And so this last year I went and I worked at camp, the camp that Gracie and I had met at, and I met this lady who had said I had worked with her in the snack shack, and she was just like kind of grumpy, but I like genuinely enjoyed her. Like I was the only person that I think I like really liked her, and I just loved talking with her. And she just had she was very wise and had a lot of knowledge, and like was super like, she'd warm up to you before she talked to you, really. And so I really enjoyed like my nights with her in the snack shack. And so we were talking. I was telling her just about, like, I just recently went through a breakup, and I was telling her like I didn't know what God's purpose for me was. And so her and I had like talked, and she had told me that her kids had done this thing called YWAM, and I was like, what is YWAM? And she was just like, you don't know what YWAM is? And I was like, no. She was just like, Youth with a Mission. And I was just like, dang, that's really, really cool. And she explained to me what it was, and her kids had done it in Kona, Hawaii. And so put that in my back pocket, kind of forgot about it, didn't really know what to think of it. Like, I was just like, that's really cool. Like, I mean, I was like 17, it wasn't going anywhere. Like, I wasn't doing anything with it because, you know, 17 is still like a child. And so then I went and followed him on Instagram and stuff. Like, I don't even know which one I followed on Instagram. I followed one of them on Instagram. No, I liked it on Facebook. And so my friend Gracie came home after being accepted her first year at the college. And I was talking to her. She brought a foreign exchange student home. Love them both to death. Oh my gosh, it was Grace and Gracie. And so I just like got really, like, I hung out with them a lot, and I talked to them, and I was talking to Gracie, and I was like, I don't know what to do. And so the program that she's in at her college is a 2-year program, basically finding out which ministry you want to go into. It's going and it's working in different ministries and like a lot of different things, just like figuring out what God's purpose for you basically is. And I was like super interested. I was talking to her about it, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna like, you can like send in your phone number and they'll call you, and like you can send in your phone number and they'll like call you, and you can set up a time. Basically, like, they're really, really far away, like hundreds of miles away. And so you can like set up a time where you can go and stay at the college for like a couple days and tour the campus. And I wanted to do that. And so I'd send in my number, and then like all of a sudden like YWAM came back up in my mind, and I was just like, yeah, okay, I should probably like give them that I should probably give them my number too. And so I just like, which one did I give? It was the LA one. I had like done that, and I talked to them. They called me like 2 weeks later. I'd completely forgotten about it. And so they had called me, and I was talking, and I just felt like super overwhelmed. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm supposed to go to Youth with a Mission. Like, YWAM is what God has for me right now. And so that started a whole bunch of confusion. And so I'd call my mom sobbing. She had left for a couple days, and I'd called her right at the beginning of her trip. She was driving, and I was just like, Mom, like, I found what I'm supposed to do. Like, I'm supposed to do this. And so basically she's like, yeah, like, my mom's a nervous Nelly. She just wants me to be safe always, and I don't blame her, but she was just like, we'll look into it, like, kind of like read what it's about, like see like if biblically it's correct, and it kind of matches like what we believe. And so I was like, okay, yeah, understandable. And so I was going through and I was reading on their website, and everything just like lined up perfectly. And so I called her back a couple hours later, and I was like, listen to this, blah blah blah. And she's like, okay, like, call your dad, Abby, since like I like kind of like to like decide that I'm doing something. Like, I'm like such a in the moment person. Like, I will decide I'm doing something. And so I called my dad, and I read everything to him, and I'm just like, listen to this, like cool, right? Like I should go, right? Like, I'm supposed to go. And I just felt super on fire about it. And so whatever. And so a couple of weeks later, like, I was looking into it, and I was like, oh, like, I remembered that this one lady had like went to Hawaii. And so I, like, her kids had went to Hawaii, and then she went to go volunteer in Hawaii. And I was just like, oh yeah, like, okay. So I like applied for the one in Kona, Hawaii to call me back, and they did. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to go to Kona. Like, I'm supposed to go to Hawaii. Like, duh, like, why wouldn't the Lord want me to go to Hawaii? I mean, it's literally like heaven on earth. Like, I've never been to Hawaii, so it was just like 6 months in Hawaii, yeah. And so I had basically, like, I had talked to them on the phone the most. I was in like contact with them like probably twice a week for a month, and had really long, good, meaningful conversations. I mean, something that really stuck out to me about YWAM in the first place was when I first got off the phone, like, they asked me if they could pray with me. And like, that really was like, people don't really ask you these days, like, hey, can I pray for you? Like, how can I pray for you? And like, I know that it was just like a part of their job, but it still like was just like, okay, like, this is a thing. And so I told my parents, I was just like, yeah, I'm going to Kona. And so I sat down at the table and talked to my mom, and she's just like, I don't feel that way either. And I was just like, I got really frustrated, honestly. Like, I was just like, what do you mean? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, I wanted her to feel what I felt. And so I was like, whatever, lady. And she's like, listen, I want you to get sign up for phone calls from 3 other places. So I signed up for Nashville, Washington, D.C., North Carolina, and Montana. I'd not gotten any phone calls except from Tennessee. And I called my mom. And so Tennessee is a worship. Like, they each have their own thing. And so worship was the one for Tennessee. And me, I can't really sing, but like worship is my thing. Like, I have a worshiper's heart. Like I can feel God move through music. Like, I remember the first time our old worship leader came to our church to audition to sing, and she sang Holy Spirit by Francesca Battistelli, and I felt physically like the Holy Spirit moving through our church. And so I've always really that's how I've talked with God. Like, that's how I meet with God. Like, that's where I find my peace with him. And so Tennessee is a worship school, and I was just like, okay, cool. And I the lady that I called, love her to death. Like, literally, I talked to her a lot. I've talked to her a couple times, not a lot, but she didn't ask to pray with me, and I was just like, okay. And so I get off the phone, I call my mom, and I let her know, like, hey, like, I was leaving class that day, and I was just like, hey, just so you know, I got a call from Tennessee. I wasn't really feeling it. And so her and I just kind of got into it a little bit about like where I was supposed to go, because I was so dead set on Tennessee. I was so dead set on Kona that I don't think that I was listening to God. Like, I was so dead set in what I wanted and not what God had for me at that point, because I wanted to go to Kona so bad. And so I got off the phone with her, and I just I turned on my worship music, and I just started crying as I was driving out of the parking lot. And I just was sitting there, and I was just praying. I was like, Lord, like just show me like what I'm supposed to do, like where you're supposed to have me. Like, I know that I'm supposed to go to a YWAM, but like, show me which YWAM, God. Like, just give me clarity on what I'm doing with my life, because I'm so confused and my heart aches because of it, Lord. Like, I don't know what to do anymore. And so you know, he was working in my heart that day. I know he was. And so my parents come home. My dad comes home, right? Yeah, my dad comes home from my open house. And the first night that he's home, I sit him down, and I sit my mom down, and I tell them, I'm like, listen, I'm going to Kona. And it was just kind of a thing, back and forth, blah, blah, blah. And like, so Kona starts in January. Like, their DTS starts in January. And I was like, I'm going to the Kona DTS. And my mom was like, that's not, like, God would confirm it for me if like you were supposed to go. Like, you wouldn't just be going off your feelings. Like, it would, like, you would know in your heart. And she's like, and do you know in your heart? And I was like, honestly, like, no. Like, I felt kind of conflicted about it. And so I'm sitting there, and I just like I feel God, like his presence, and like I just start counting, because the Tennessee DTS starts in March. And so I'm sitting there on the table, and like, I'm gonna sound so horrible, but I'm sitting there on the table with my hand down, and my head like down, and my hands on the table, and I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm counting the months and how long it would take, because I just wanted to go. And my mom was like, Abby, like, what's God telling you? And I look over, and I'm like, shut up, I'm counting, shut up. And so she's just like, okay. And like, it sounds so disrespectful. I don't usually talk to my parents like that. I was just overwhelmed. And so I'm sitting there counting, and like, I notice I'm just like, okay, August, September, October, November, December, January, like 6 months until the one in Kona, and I want to go. I'm just like, oh, whatever. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, 8 months until the one in Tennessee. And I just felt like I just started feeling overwhelmed, and I was like, started crying, and my mom's like, what? I'm like, I know I'm supposed to go to the one in Tennessee, but I don't want to. And she was just like, yay! like she started crying and she was super excited because, you know, it's like closer to home. And so then starts my application process. Like my parents prayed with me and made me feel a lot better. I've never been to Tennessee, so I don't know even still what it's gonna be like. But so they had prayed with me, and then that night I paid my application fee and applied, and I got a phone call and they were like, yo, we got all your stuff, but we need this doctor's form. I was like, okay. So basically they needed the doctor to fill out this form. So like, okay. And so I went and I got the doctor's form, filled out, sent. They didn't get it. I had to have my like doctor's office resend it. They finally got it. I didn't get anything from them for a couple of weeks. And then they were like, so I get a call from the lady and she's just like, hey, have you checked your email recently? And I was just like, no, I don't ever check my email. And so she's like, oh, okay. So about a week ago, I sent you this thing. She's like, it's just a health information thing. She's like, it's basically what you had to have filled out before by your doctor, but it's personally filled out by you. I was like, okay, great. So I had to go through and fill out all of my family history. And then I'm like going through and I'm just like, oh my gosh, they need my blood type. Like, I don't know what my blood type is. Like, I've never gotten that tested. I've never like given blood or anything. And so I called my doctor, which is like really good friends with my mom. I called her the next morning. I was like, hey, so I need to know what my blood type is for this thing, and I don't know what it is. How do I do that? And she's just like, come in, we'll test you. I was like, okay, awesome. So I came in and she comes in the room while the nurse is getting ready to draw my blood, and I'm sitting there talking to her and explaining to her everything, and I just like stopped when they stuck the needle, and I was like, ooh. I was like, hey, what were we talking about? And she's just like, we were talking about YWAM. And I was like, oh yeah. And so I continued on as the lady's like taking my blood and cleaning me up. And then I sat for like half an hour and talked with her. And she probably had another patient in the room, but you know, whatever. And so then I get home that night, I fill everything out and I send it in. And I'm just waiting. And like, I'm like, okay, like, I don't know. Like, oh my God, I don't know, I'm gonna cry. I was just like, I'm just waiting for this call that says, like, I've been telling everybody that I was like basically moving there, that like that was the plan, like that's what I was doing. And so but I hadn't been accepted yet, but I knew that the Lord had told me that this is what you're doing, like this is what I have for you. And I'm not gonna lie, the past couple of months I've been struggling with my faith, and I've been struggling with decisions. And I've not been making the greatest decisions with some stuff, but and I want to be honest about that, not right now about what was going on, but eventually, like, I do want to be honest about my struggles with temptation and my struggles with like what my struggles are personally. Someday I want to be honest about that and share that on this platform. But I was just like waiting for this phone call, and it was a couple weeks later. This process took like 2 months. And so I was driving home from school on Thursday, and I was like, I'd stopped at the car wash to throw away some stuff out of my car. And so I get a call from the lady, and she was like, hey Abby, blah blah blah. And at this point I'm so tired of filling out stuff. I thought she was gonna like tell me that I had more paperwork to fill out, and I was just gonna be like, you know what, never mind, like I don't want to, never mind, like I don't need to do this. And so she calls me and she's just like, we got all your paperwork, sorry it took so long. And she was just, and I was like, you know, it's okay, like whatever. And so she, all the paperwork took forever. She apologized. And then we're sitting there talking, and she's just like, I just want to let you know that we got everything in. And so basically before they accept a student, they pray over them and like hear from God, like if this student is supposed to be there, because this, I mean, like it's like not gonna be an easy thing. And so she was just like, we were praying, and we just wanted to let you know that you're accepted. And I just started bawling right there, and I just like can only imagine like being on the other end of that phone, like telling students that they're accepted to something that they've wanted their entire lives, like something that they've always wanted to do, like, that they're accepted, that like God said to them, like, this is what they're supposed to do, like, and just being able to be the one that gives that message, like, this is what you get to do with your life, like, God, yes, like, yeah, like, like, this is all just confirming that other people that I don't even know believe that I'm supposed to go there. And so I just started crying, and she said, I wanted to let you know that while we were praying, God told me, God, I felt his excitement for you. I felt God's excitement. I'm getting chills right now. I felt God's excitement for you to come here, and that we all are super, super excited to have you now. And I know that, but like, people can be praying for you and like say that you're accepted and you're accepted, but they don't have to let you know that God's excited for you to be there. And I don't know, that might be a thing that everyone gets to hear, but she said, personally, I felt God's excitement overwhelm me. And she said, and he told me that this next, like, that you're gonna learn a lot over the next 5 months in preparation for this, and that there's high expectation for you here. And that, like I said, it might be for everybody, but there was something so special to know that there were people praying for me, and they feel like I'm supposed to be there. Like, they feel like God is saying, like, I'm supposed to be there. And that there's expectation. Like, I've never had somebody say that, like, there's high expectation for you. Like, that's super cool for me, and like super important. And like, I've always had a hard time with community and finding my place with friends. Like, I'm not, like, I have good friends, but I don't have a lot of them, and I really only have Gracie that I'm super, super close with, that's like a good Christian friend that can like kind of like keep me going down the right path, that encourages me too. And so I feel like in this, like, I'll find my people and find my community and my circle, and find my place almost, and hear from God, and to know what I'm supposed to do, because I don't know what I'm supposed to do yet, but I know now that this is what I'm supposed to do right now. And so I'm so excited, and like, I'm so looking forward to like seeing where my life goes, because I felt so stuck my entire life. Like, I've always told my mom, like, I'm not staying in Michigan. Like, I am not, like, this is not where I'm supposed to be. I've never felt home here. I've never felt home anywhere. And so if I can find a place, even if home is everywhere, like, as long as I'm doing what God has for me, that's what matters, right? I'm so excited, guys. Like, this is so cool for me, and like, I'm really excited to document my journey on how this goes. But yeah, that's how I got accepted into YWAM. And so hopefully after I'm done, if like maybe people see this or something, then it'll be like I can encourage other people. Like, if it's something that I really feel like is amazing, like, I can encourage other people to go and to do this and to try this. I really, really hope so. But thanks for coming and watching my whole story time. This was kind of a long video, but yeah, I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow.